together lessons that we could share with the ladies in the church as well as outside the church. Writing was a part of that as well, which I haven't done a great job of that. But the goal in that was for the Thrive Ministry to have lots of different ladies who could share through either articles or books or even speaking engagements. So I went through that. And so part of what Lois said, share my testimony, I'm not sharing my testimony from my salvation experience or how I came to know Christ, but there is some of my testimony within this as far as some things that I've gone through lately, just kind of working on myself and how what God's done in my life through this. So I just wanted to put that out there before I get started. So this session that I put together is called Building Relationships Through Conversation. And some of this is a little touch of some things that I do at work. So for some of you, you may not know that I teach in our store manager college. I work for Food Lion, and I teach inside of our store manager college, a department manager college, leadership college. And a lot of what I teach is around just relationship building and, leadership skills. How do we just be better humans ourselves and teach other people how to be better humans? And that's important when it comes to managing and leading people. So anyway, I just wanted to set a little context there. So I wanted to start out by telling you a little bit of a story about what I've been through the last probably year and a half now, maybe even 2 years. So I was sitting in a Bible study that Michelle Rabin was leading a while back, and she referred to her women. And I think it was around the time that maybe her and Jeremy were feeling like they were being called into something different, maybe even possibly leaving the church. And she was just expressing how she didn't know what she would do without her women and how important her women were to her. And it really hit me hard, and I thought, I don't know that I really have my women inside of our church family. And so I really started this self-examination process. And I thought, why do I not have my women inside this church family? And it really bothered me. So I really had to go back in time a little bit and think about why did I not have a group of women at church that I really could depend on and that I spent a lot of time with. And so I traced it back. I was able to do that to a time not long after we came to Central. It's probably been, I don't know how many years ago that's been now. It was back in probably 2004. I was really good friends with a person. I'm not going to call him names. And we were couples friends. So her and her husband, me and my husband. And I got hurt really bad in that relationship, really bad. I mean, it was something that just devastated me. It took me a really long time to get over it, and I'm probably even not over it to this day. So I very quickly said, after I went through that, I was like, nope, not doing that again. That hurt too bad. I went through some really bad stuff because of that, and I'm not going to do that again. So I retreated to my little comfort zone, which was I'll hang out with my daughter, a couple of friends here and there inside the church on occasion, and my middle school girls in my Sunday school class. And that was going to be the end of that story, and I was perfectly happy. I had a couple of buddies in the choir. This is when I was still in the choir. And I just really wasn't interested in developing any relationships other than that because I didn't want to get hurt again, and I didn't want to go through all of that mess again that I went through. So I thought, okay, that's where I've been the last several years, the last good many years actually. So what do I want to do different now? If I'm saying I want my women, how's that going to work? What's that going to look like for me? So, like I said, it's been about a year and a half since I came to that realization of why I didn't have my group of women and what I've been able to do about it. So part of it, that's really, to be honest with you, that's the reason I signed up for going through these classes that I went through, because in all honesty, I really didn't understand what I was getting myself into when I did that. I thought, oh, this would be a good time to learn with some other women, get to know some women a little bit better. And I have been able to do that going through that process. So that was one thing that I did, just to get involved in anything, in something inside the church, to develop some relationships. And it's not been easy, because that self-reflection, and especially when you ask the Lord to show you what am I doing in all of this? Am I not showing myself as friendly, or what is it that I'm not doing? That's hard work. And so I'm going to share a little bit of what I went through with you, and hopefully it'll help us all grow as ladies inside of our church family especially. So with all that said, I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you think that relationships are important? Why are relationships important?
You can't be by yourself.
You can't be by yourself, okay?
I mean, I can't.
Yeah. It's not good to be by yourself, yeah. How about inside the church family? Why would you say relationships are important?
I think it helps you feel spiritual.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it helps us grow
Because outside
spiritually.
the church family, a lot of people don't want to hear it, or it's offensive to it, so
Right.
I really rely on church
Yeah.
family.
Helps you stay accountable, yeah.
But
We
it's,
need that, don't we?
but it's a good way for help that people, some people grow in
Mhm.
faith
Mhm.
and have communion.
Yeah,
And probably like my experience is different experience for somebody else.
That's
And
right.
together this make people grow.
that's right. We help each other grow, because we do all have different experiences. We all have different levels of spiritual maturity, and yeah, we can help each other grow. And so imagine what it would be like if we intentionally spent time within our church family getting to know other ladies and developing stronger relationships, new relationships. I mean, think about the people, the ladies in our church that, I mean, I don't know about you, but there's a whole lot that I don't even know their names. I don't know anything about them. What's that?
You can remember.
I know, yeah, I know, I've got that problem too, yeah. I have the hardest time remembering people's names. But think about what would happen. We would build each other up instead of tearing each other down. We contribute to one another's spiritual growth, as Linda just said. I mean, and not only just from a spiritual growth perspective, but just being a better mother, a better grandmother, a better friend, a better wife. I mean, all of that, just a better church member. We'd all be better because of it. We can contribute to one another's emotional healing. I mean, we all need that. We all have our own stuff that we deal with. And being able to share it with one another just goes so far in helping us just feel better emotionally. And then that contributes to our physical.
And we had the example with Jesus.
Yes.
The Bible said many people follow Jesus, but he brought the relation with 12.
Mhm.
And they ate together, they
Yes.
talking, they training, they all. And it's, this told us a relationship and Jesus' body is very good.
I love that, because that leads us into our next question. What does the Word tell us about conversations and relationships? So I'm so glad you brought that up. We're going to see what the Word tells us, because I've got a lot of verses in here as we go along. And I love what you said, Linda. I might steal that from you.
Okay.
That, yeah, Jesus and his relationship with the 12 is a perfect example of how important it is to spend time intentionally getting together, fellowshipping together, eating together, learning together, and how that works to build relationships. So this verse, Romans 12, 9 and 10. Let love be without dissimulation, abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another. So, in other words, don't just pretend you love others. I mean, we can get really good at that, can't we? We put our little nice church face on and we come in and we're so sweet and we talk to each other, and do we really feel that love for one another? I don't know. It's a question we have to all ask ourselves, because if we don't spend time again thinking about it, are we really being real? Or are we just throwing that face on because we feel like we have to because we're at church? Do you think can you spot somebody that's being fake with you? It's pretty easy, isn't it? It's pretty easy. So do you think that other people can spot it if you're being fake with them?
Sure.
Yeah, they probably can. They probably can. Some people get really good at it, I have to say. But be authentic. That's the whole thing I wanted to say there, is just be real. Be your real self. It can really go a long way. How about this one? Proverbs 27:9. Ointment and perfume rejoice the heart. So doth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. So I love that. The heartfelt counsel of a friend is as sweet as perfume and incense. And it really is, isn't it? You think about when you know you've got that really good friend, that true friend who's being totally real with you, it is like the sweetness of perfume. It feels good, it smells good. So how about your current relationships, the ones that are going great? Think about those. We've all got those relationships that are going great. What makes them great? How would you describe them? Comfortable, trustworthy, yeah. Yeah. What else? How would you describe your greatest relationships?
Love.
Love, yeah, full of love, yeah. At work, one of the things that I teach very often is from this book. It's more like a book that you would use in an organization. And you can get a lot out of it just individually too. It's called Fierce Conversations, and it's by Susan Scott. So since I'm going to use a little bit of that, I wanted to mention that book. But I just had you think about those relationships and what makes those relationships great. And so there's this thing that we talk about called C=R. The conversation equals the relationship. So think about any relationship that you're in right now, whether it be going really good or not so good. You can probably link that up to the types of conversations that you're having with that person. So if I'm in a really good relationship with somebody, then I could probably say, hey, those conversations are going really good. And if I have a relationship in my life that's not going so good, I can probably look at those conversations and say, conversations aren't going so well, or maybe they're not even there. The conversation may have just stopped altogether. So that's what I mean by that C=R. Whatever we're putting into those conversations is probably the state of that relationship.
I was thinking, and that's going to, but sorry.
No, go
But
ahead.
I was thinking because sometimes we have friends, well, we believe they are very close friends to us and we have a good relationship, but sometimes the conversation don't help you to be, well, I will use one example.
Okay.
I had a good friend.
Mhm.
I call her my daughter. But she goes someplace where I don't go. And when she back from this place, she come to me and she start to tell me all the bad things what they talking about me, da 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 da.
Mhm.
Okay, this don't help with the relationship
Right.
because this destroy.
Mhm.
And what I do in the last time, I do it. I say when you have something will hurt my husband or will hurt my feelings, about somebody says something, please don't share it with us.
Right.
Because this don't help with a good relationship.
Mhm.
This destroy our
Right.
relationship.
Right.
And sometimes, this is a very important point,
Mhm.
because sometimes we are very clear. We are, what is, like the glass, and we try to reflect what we have in our heart.
Mhm.
But probably the other person is not the same way.
Right.
And this is what broken relationship.
Yeah.
And we need to be careful what we talking for make a stronger relationship.
Yeah.
If we need to make what I made sometime, make.
Mhm.
Don't, if it's your true friend, we'll continue to be friend with you.
I love what you said, Linda, because sometimes we know that there's something not going so well, just like you with your friend that was saying the things you really didn't want to hear. And so there's nothing wrong with stopping and saying, hey, I love you and I really don't, I would prefer you not tell me that kind of thing anymore. And I just had a situation with my very best friend, her name's Sue. She sat me down not too very long ago and she said, hey, I just need to share with you a couple of things that is bothering me right now. And the things that were bothering her was about me. And, you know, for those of you that know me well, and some of you don't know me as well, I travel a lot for work. And so sometimes when I'm home, I'm tired, I just don't want to do anything, I don't want to see anybody. And so when I'm traveling a lot, sometimes I don't reach out to her. And sometimes I don't let her know what's going on in my life. And she said, that hurts me. She said, my daddy was having some health problems. And she said, I didn't even know that about your dad. And she said, that really hurts my feelings. So we have to stop. It works both ways. If things are not going well from our perspective, we can say, hey, stop. I need to have a conversation with you about something. And then if somebody's trying to tell us about something that we're doing or not doing in that relationship, then we have to be open to hear that as well. And I'll tell you something else around this C=R. This is something that just happened to me recently. So sometimes maybe we're in a relationship with somebody, we hadn't talked to them in a really long time, and we might be feeling like, I don't really know what the status of that relationship is right now because it's been so long since I've talked with that person. And I don't know if you're like me, that sometimes I can be a little embarrassed about the length of time I've gone without reaching out, and so then I put it off even longer. And I say, well, I'm kind of embarrassed to call them now. Sometimes one conversation can get that thing right back on track where it was. So I've got a really dear friend that I worked with for many years, and when she left the company that I worked for, we just kind of, we didn't see each other every day, and we didn't talk as often. And so I was in that space of thinking, I don't really know how Teresa feels about me right now. I'm kind of embarrassed to reach out. It's been a really long time. She's going through some health problems right now. She called me up about a month ago and told me what she was going through, and she told me she missed me and she loved me. And so that one little phone call has got our relationship back on track, and we're keeping in touch with each other. And so I'm saying that just to say, don't let something lie if you know it's not right. Pick up the phone, or better yet, go see the person face to face. That's always better than a phone call if you can do it. Conversations are key in building relationships. Now, what gets in our way of having conversations and building relationships? What are some things that get in your way of having conversations with other ladies? Particularly those you may not know that well.
I think fear sometimes.
Fear, yeah. What were you gonna say?
Afraid to go up and approach them, I
Yeah.
guess.
Just-
Fear would be the same thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know what she's gonna think if I just pop up out of the blue trying to have a conversation. What else can get in our way? They're not interested in me. What else gets in our way?
Too busy at
too
home.
busy, yeah.
Other things.
I don't have time for that. Yeah, that's a big one, time. Yeah. Oops, I thought I had the question.
You know, it looks like we're all retired in here or whatever, and we don't have time.
Yeah.
That's the truth. You still get so busy.
Don't retire.
You think,
Don't be
like my
sad.
daughter says, well, Mom, you're home all week, what you got to do? Can you
Yeah.
not do that?
Yeah.
Ugh, you just don't know.
I know, it's, you know, it goes back to, we find the time to do the things we wanna
That's
do
true.
somehow. And it's easy to use time. I don't have enough time for an excuse. I do it.
We don't want to get out of our comfort zone.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. We don't wanna get out of our comfort zone.
We don't want to get into our.
Catch up on Facebook too much.
Yeah, boy, that thing really takes up a lot of time
Don't
too.
take mine.
Carol, what were you gonna
I
say?
think it's one of the most important things we can do,
Oh, yeah,
is to listen
yeah,
for somebody who approaches you.
yeah.
In my life, nobody really needs to know this, but most people think I know everybody, talk to everybody. That's not true. I just want you to be comfortable. I don't want anybody to feel left out.
Mhm.
I lived through that as a young girl, and it hurts me to think, if somebody, I drive my daughter crazy, Kelly, that's my daughter over here on the camera, talking. She's a quiet person, but you know, you can learn a lot from quiet people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I've learned a lot from my children. But it's very important to listen. And those who will not listen, when you try to talk, walk off, they really might as well walk off.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna dig into listen here in a
You're gonna
minute
get
too.
into that.
Thank you for bringing that up. So let's just go back to, and the things we talked about what gets in our way. I don't know why it's not popping up on here, but we said fear, not enough time. Maybe I don't like them. Maybe they don't like me. I don't need them. Maybe it's personality conflicts. I could talk all day long about personalities. Those that were at the beach with me know. That's something that I do for work as well. We all have our individual personalities, right? There's a lot to be said there because some personality types might just rub you the wrong way. And that's okay. God made us all unique. He made us all different. And those personalities, although yours might be different than mine, we can still have conversation and have a relationship, and we can still be in harmony with each other. It's about energy. So, Kelly, I'm gonna guess you don't want to get up here in front of the room and talk and share your life story with everybody. Is that true? That's what I figured. Let's see, who's probably somebody that Linda, you'd probably get up here in a heartbeat and talk and share with everybody in the room. Would that bother you? No, not at all. So we all have different personalities. Like I said, that's just the way
That's
God
my
made us.
husband, yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah, he'll talk. So think about that. We get energy from certain things, and certain things wear us out. If we ask Kelly to get up here and share, she probably would if we just said, hey, we really need you to do this, and I know I'm putting words in your mouth. And she'd probably be exhausted when it was over. Is that true? Yeah. So some people get energy from going around meeting new people. Some people don't. It takes them a lot of energy. So the question for all of us is it worth my energy to get out there and put myself out there and meet other people? May not be worth it for you. I don't know. I can't answer for you. I think we've probably all experienced the joy of stronger relationships and new relationships. So I say it is worth it for us to, who said I have to get out of my comfort zone? Yeah. So it's worth it to get out of our comfort zone and meet some
I
new
think
people.
too, Lisa, and I'm this way, I'm more of a private person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not that outgoing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more private.
That's right. And again, that's part of the personality type. Some people would not dare ever get up and share deeply personal things with a group, much less, or one other person. And some people might tell you, you've heard TMI, that's a little bit too much information. I didn't need to know all that about you. So you got on the one hand, people that are not gonna share anything personal. On the other hand, you got people that share way too much.
Let's say that again, the what, Ted, what did you say?
TMI, too
Okay.
much information.
That's what my husband always accused me of doing. Nobody knows anything until you speak.
Lisa, but
Tell all
for
the
me,
secrets.
I am very open to talking with the people. And
Yeah.
like it's a group or don't bother me nothing less. But I don't have very close friends in my life
Yeah,
because that's an experience. And you share everything and later you can hear everything around you outside the circle.
yeah,
And then for me, this is the more important part. We need to learn for all the people what we know. We need to learn to know what is the person what we can share it, such a thing.
oh, yes.
And even when we have very close friends, many things in our life don't can go up. We don't can put everything outside because
Right.
this probably don't will help the other person too. And even when I am like me, somebody like me, we have our confidence. We have people, well, we believe they are very close friends, but many others. I know many people in the church, but I don't talk with all the church. Lois is one, not here, I think so.
Yeah, and you know, confidentiality is important, right? If we're sharing our heart and we don't want the whole world to know, that trust has got to be built with another person. And so again, I'm gonna go back to having conversations and building relationships, and through that, trust is built over time, and then we know who we can share our heart with and who we can't.
Lisa, when I came here and was visiting and came into the Sunday school class for the first time, I was frightened. I mean, it may not show, but I was scared to death because I didn't know how I would be received.
Right.
And most of these ladies are in my Sunday school class, and all I received was love. And it was the best scared moment of my life.
Yeah, yeah. And if you hadn't chose to get involved, you would never experience that. Yeah. Okay, so we just talked about personality types and how we choose to act differently than maybe the way we're naturally wired. And so at the end of the day, we can have all the reasons in the world that we say, well, I want friends, I want more friends, I want deeper relationships. In my case, I wanted my women in my church family, and we get to choose, right? I got to choose. I could sit there all day long and say, well, I don't have those women, why don't I have those women? I had to do something about it. So we get to choose what we're gonna do. Let's look at what the Bible says about this whole thing about having friends. Proverbs 18:24. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. We've probably all read that, right? Must show ourselves friendly. So if we want friends, we've got to figure out how we show ourselves friendly. What's that look like for me? What's it look like for you? It's different for all of us because we all have our strengths and we all have those things that we could get a little bit better at. So I had to make some changes in myself. One of the things, and this is kind of funny, but it just is what it is I had to think about just in my facial expression, am I showing myself friendly? Because I've got one of those faces that if I'm not intentionally trying to put a smile on my face, I'm going to show you what my face looks like. I don't show very many people this, okay? That's not a very friendly looking face, is it? My whole entire life I've been told, smile, it's not that bad. It can't be that bad, honey, smile. So at some point in time I got the message. And so I really have to work hard at, I keep my eyebrows lifted, I try to keep a smile on my face all the time, because I know that if I'm not intentionally doing that, I look like I'm mad. So people are not gonna just come up and want to have a conversation with me if they don't know me, if I look like I'm gonna, bite their head off at any minute. I mean, I think about people in our church that don't have that problem, that you just look at them and they look like they've got this natural, painted on smile that the Lord blessed them with, or those people that just, they're always happy and talking. I think about Miss Brumley, she's just talking and she's got that sweet little voice. And here I come with my gruff, deep, scratchy voice with my natural scowl on my face. So what's it look like for me? I know that's one thing that I have to do differently if I want to show myself friendly and have friends. So again, I don't know what that looks like for you, but really putting myself out there, because I can get in a place of believing, like Kelly said, they don't really want to know me. They don't want to talk with me. And how do I know that? We all have wonderful things to offer, and if we never take the chance to really put ourselves out there, we don't know what kind of a friendship we might be missing. Now, Dean just talked about this yesterday, so I've got to be careful about how I talk about this, because I don't want to contradict anything he said. But I think he said perception equals reality. And I'm saying perception versus reality. So I'm not saying anything about the word, because we know the word is the truth and reality. What I'm saying here is this area of perception versus reality, I think, is one of the biggest things that can get in the way of relationships. So who in here knows what I'm talking about when I say perception versus reality? Do y'all know what I mean? It's when I think I know what you're thinking, or I think I know what your motive was when you said that, but I don't really know, do I? I'm not in your head. So you might have made a comment that you heard, and I thought, I can't believe she said that. That really hurt my feelings. But I don't really know what that person really meant by that thing that they just said. So if I hear somebody say something that maybe I took it the wrong way, what's the best thing I can do?
Ask about it.
Ask them. Yeah, Jean, I heard you say X, Y, and Z. Did you really mean X, Y, and Z? Maybe you did. And that's another thing. Maybe they did, but maybe they didn't. That really, it's all, when I talk about reality, it's all that stuff that I've gathered up and collected through all my years of life. It's the things that I've got in my head that I believe to be the truth, but it might not really be the truth. As in, remember when I talked about I got hurt all those years ago in a relationship at church. I'm not going to do that again, because everybody is going to do that eventually. Is that true? No. It could happen again, but it's not true that every single relationship is going to end up that way. So all I'm saying here is check out the stuff that you could be making up, because it might be true and it might not be true. So check it out. It's real easy to say, look at even a picture on Facebook, right? And say, I can't believe that they left me out. Why did I not get invited to that? I can't believe that. Well, she's saying, oh, I'm so happy to be here with all my friends, blah, blah, blah. And so it's easy to sit on the other side of that and say, well, I must not be her friend. She's so excited about, you see what I'm saying? We can make all this garbage up that's probably not even true. So let's look at some ways we can have better conversations in order to have better relationships. One of them is to recognize the power of words. So the verse here, Proverbs 12:18, there is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. So how many of you know words can hurt? We've probably all experienced that before. They have power. They really do. How do we know words have power? Anybody have a thought there?
Cut like a sword
They
sometimes.
can cut like a sword. Yeah, they really can. And you know, there's that little, some people call it their form of humor, sarcasm. So, people think they're really clever when they use sarcasm, right? And it's some kind of maybe a humorous remark that is really kind of digging into somebody, right? So, how many of you is anybody in here know where we get that word sarcasm? Anybody happen to know? So it comes to us from the Greek, and the original word that we get sarcasm from means to tear flesh from the bone in a dog-like manner. So think about ripping flesh from the bone like a dog. That's what those cutting remarks can feel like to the other person that's on the receiving end of that. That would hurt really bad. And sarcasm does hurt. Some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing, as we see and hear in this verse. We should all be using our words to speak healing and life into people, not to cut them down. Certainly this next verse, Psalm 19:14, reminds us that ultimately our words should be pleasing to the Lord. So let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. When our words are pleasing to the Lord, they're not going to be hurting anybody, right? So if that's our goal, to speak and do things that are pleasing to the Lord, then we are not going to be hurting others with our words. Even the tone that we use. So the tone that we use can change the meaning of a word, right? So, I mean, this is just kind of a silly example, but if I said to somebody, you're real smart, or that was real smart, that sounds pretty positive, right? I can also say, well, that was real smart. And that totally changed. Same words, different tone, totally changes the meaning. I read a lot. I love books. So I ran across this book called The Relationship Cure, and the author is Dr. Gottman. And he says, when it comes to assessing the meaning of what that other person is saying to you in a conversation, only 7% of the meaning of what they're saying comes from the spoken word. 7% of what they're saying comes from the spoken word. 38% comes from the tone of voice that the other person's using. Think about how big of a difference that is. So just watching our tone. And for some people, we have to be really intentional about that as well, because some people have, like I said earlier, different types of voices that might not sound as friendly as others. So we really have to be careful about our tone of voice. To further confirm that, this verse here, Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but a grievous words stir up anger. So let our words be soft and not harsh.
Like I said, I have problem with my tongue because I talk too much. But my prayer is what Psalms 141 verse 3 said. God will control my tongue and
Yes.
put word in my lips, because if God had a control in my mind, in my tongue, in my lips, probably it will be better.
Yes.
I will talk better. I will use bad words or whatever can hurt somebody. But for sure, this is my prayer, because I know my tongue. I know I have problem. And espero if God have control in me and not myself.
Very often, my morning prayer is, God, take over my mouth. Because most of the time, I do a fairly decent job with what comes out of my mouth is hopefully speaking life into somebody, teaching, because I do teach a lot. And sometimes if I hear the wrong thing, I can just, it just comes out like the, just a bunch of bad stuff that has no business coming out of my mouth. So yeah, that's a big one for me too, Linda, is just asking God every morning to take control of my mouth. Yeah.
That applies today with text.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes I won't text because I want to hear what they're saying. You don't hear what you said, how it's said.
That's right. I'm glad you brought that up, Kelly, because I didn't have it in here, but it is something that we talk about when I'm teaching classes at work, is the tone. So obviously, there's no tone when you're reading words on a screen, but there is a tone, because it's the tone you're reading it with. So when we read words on the screen, it's really easy to attach a tone that other person never even intended, right? I mean, even something as little and simple as the word yeah. So I can ask my daughter a question, and she'll sometimes respond with yeah. And I think, does she mean, yeah, if I have to? Or does she mean, yeah, that sounds really good, I want to do that. And so I text her back and I'll say, do you mean just exactly what I just said to y'all? Because I don't know. And if I take it as that she meant, yeah, then I can get in a bad place in my head. So if you can avoid the words on the screen and pick up the phone and have a conversation, it's better. And it's so easy, isn't it? Just to pick up that phone and text. Don't ever start. Don't ever start.
Why do you think people don't want to text instead of talking?
Yes.
A lot of people
I
do.
get kind of resent that,
Yeah.
because I think, well, they take time to call me and talk to me.
It's gotten so easy, and we see the effects of it now with younger people and relationships. They don't know how to have a good, healthy relationship because of that texting and that world of everything's on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with another
Right.
human
That's
being.
right.
Yes.
I will
Becoming
tell
a
you,
problem.
if you receive a text from me about dinner, it's a happy text.
Use emojis, right? Happy face.
Well, I won't receive text.
Well, I'll get your phone number, because I do call the ones that I'm inviting. If they don't have a text, I do call.
So yeah, be careful of your tone. Now here's another one that's big for me in this whole thing of just developing relationships, especially with new people. Give feedback. Now that might sound a little weird. What do you mean, give feedback? Don't be afraid to tell somebody the good thing that you noticed about them, or even that you heard about them. Because so often, we don't share those good things that we notice or that we hear about other people. Why don't we do that? Why do you think we don't share the good things that we notice about somebody else? Jealousy, that's a big one. Maybe we think they already know, and I think jealousy is a huge one. Share that feedback. I mean, I can't tell you, and I know hopefully you've all experienced it, when somebody shares with me something good that somebody said about me, I'm just over the moon about it. I'm on cloud nine, like it just does my heart good. A lot of times the feedback that I get involves something that I've done well at work for somebody. They put this stuff into place in their life and they come back to share with me how their relationships are improving at work and at home. And it just makes me feel so good that I was able to help somebody. And then it could be something as simple as, my best friend loves the beach. So she's always trying to get a beach trip together. And so a lot of times I get involved in these beach trips with her other friends in other places that I don't even know, you know, from her church or her work or whatever it may be. And so there's this one person that I've been around a few times, and our personalities are really, really different. She's pretty quiet and reserved. And so I always wondered, like, what does she think about me? I just didn't know. You know, I thought, does she like me? I have no clue. And so when Sue was trying to get this last beach trip together, she said, Angie wanted me to reach out and see if you could come. She said, I just love Lisa. I just love being around her. And I was like, thank you for telling me that, because I've always wondered. I really didn't think she liked me. And so just that little one-liner just made me feel so much better about my relationship with this lady who I didn't even know liked me. So share those things. Look at this verse, Proverbs 16:24. Pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. I mean, think about it. If we shared all of the wonderful things that we think it, we see the person, we think, I just love her, she's so nice, or she looks so good today, or I love her new outfit. Tell that person it's good for the soul and the bones even. So don't hold back those things that you're thinking, those good things that you're thinking about people. And then Carol, here's yours. Be a great listener. Proverbs 18:13. He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is a folly and a shame unto him. Giving advice before we really listen to the facts. How many of us are guilty of doing that? We hear somebody start talking about something and we jump in before they even finish, and we're all into it, right? And we didn't hear the whole story. So slowing down and working on our listening skills can really go a long way in helping us with our relationships and just being a better person. You would not believe, I know I keep talking about work, but it's, you know, it's what I do every day, so I have lots of examples. So I teach this kind of stuff to adult men, mostly it's men. And you wouldn't believe over and over and over how often I hear, I need to work on my listening skills. I know I'm not a good listener.
Men don't listen.
Men don't listen. Yeah, they get that a lot,
They
don't
hear
they?
what they want to hear.
Selective
sometimes.
hearing.
Selective hearing. So selective hearing is a thing, right? We hear, and it can go both ways. It can go for men and women. We can ignore. We can just choose to absolutely not listen, or we can listen for those things that we want to hear. Selective. We can pretend like we're listening.
Yeah.
Right? We can be reading the paper or looking at our phone or whatever, and somebody's talking and we're like, yep. And if they said, what did I just say? We'd be sunk, wouldn't we? Because we wouldn't know what they just said. So, and there's even this thing called attentive listening. So it's where, let's say Kelly was sharing something with me and I'm just sitting here looking at her and I'm not saying anything and I'm focused, I'm making eye contact. Well, does she really know if I'm listening? I could be planning my Disney vacation in my head for all she knows, you know, and I'm just trying to act like I'm listening. So there's a way that we can listen that really lets that other person know that we're truly listening, and it's called active listening. Have y'all ever heard of that? So if I'm actively listening to somebody, I'm making eye contact, I'm using really good facial expressions, I'm nodding my head, maybe I'm making some hand gestures, you know, and I'm asking questions, or I'm saying things like, yeah, I hear you, yeah, you know, just little things like that. And then if somebody's telling me a story, I can ask a question to get a little bit more detail, just to let that other person know that I really am listening to them.
And if they
Carol?
don't change the subject while you're talking.
Don't change it, yeah. If you're listening to somebody else share something, please don't take over the conversation. I think that's what you're saying,
Yeah,
Carol.
this is what Jane 1:19 said that everybody, all the men, be prompt to listen and take time for speak.
Mhm.
And I know it's a very difficult part in the life, especially the women's, because like I said, we like to talk in little more than what they talk. And I had this problem, Lisa, with my husband. Sometimes I am with my book reading and making notes and studying, preparing my class and everything, and he tells me something. And later he said, but I told you.
Mhm.
And he told me, and I don't listen because I was busy in another
Right.
things.
God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
To listen more than
Yeah,
talk, yeah.
but it's very interesting because many times we are little late for listen and very prompt to speak.
Mhm.
And this is what broken many conversations, many good relationships while we were talking. And I was thinking of something else in here, but now I don't know. But this is one point.
Mhm.
And especially when you work with people, like a counselor,
Mhm.
you
Yes.
mentioned something very special. It's bad with my husband talking sometimes about people, they said, give me your hand, God bless you, God bless you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
We see that
I
a lot
know.
in church, people.
Yeah, we saw
Hello.
it.
Running away. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they gave you they shut the hand, but they looking in another side. This is
Yes.
the more,
Most important is to make eye contact.
You would not believe, well, you probably would because of my experience, and I'm sure everybody in here does, how often somebody will ask me how I'm